Okay, so I think we are at 4:03. We'll probably get started. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our Ozone Tools webinar, right? On the which is a follow-up to the TRAI updates we had a month back, right? My name is Amir. I take care of customer and product marketing here at Ozone Tool. Some of you may know me because we've had few sessions along with Prashant, right? Who has played various roles in Ozone Tool, and right now he's our Chief Operating Officer. Right? And I'll probably hand it over to Prashant to walk us through key updates and then the best strategies on what our customers and businesses can kind of adopt, right, in the current scenario, new things we have worked on, new strategies we see, so on and so forth, right? So Prashant, over to you, right? And we can get started.
Thanks, Amir. Good evening, all. So first of all, what are we going to do today? We are going to discuss these five aspects. We try to more or less create a story around interacting with customers. When I say customers, your end customers, okay. And what we have been doing till date versus what do we do moving forward as a business? Because TRAI is, while they haven't yet come out with a final conclusion and a rule about how to go about calling customers or what are the restrictions on calling. These things are definitely going to change, like I said last time. Okay. So, uh, so first let's start with the updates from TRAI itself, right? Okay. So one thing which we discussed in the last webinar was 160 numbers is something which TRAI would come up with in the next couple of months, and we already said this last month. Okay, so what is the update now on 160 series as such? Okay, 160 series primarily was started for the BFSI segment, as all of you know. It came out in the newspapers and all. With this scam calls which started happening, TRAI started saying we will make 160 across businesses. Okay. Now, what has happened is obviously the industry also put out their own objections and questions on how it should be. So, 140 is for the telemarketing or unsolicited calls, right? Or the promotional calls. And like all of you know, 140, you cannot do inbound calls. You can do outbound, but if somebody gets a missed call and they want to call you back, there is no way they can call you back. Okay. But 160 series is meant for transactional, and hence one common demand across the industry, which was put back to DOT and TRAI, is that this should be a inbound number also, which means people should be able to call back on that number. With the 160 series, it is not possible. You cannot call back the 160 series number. Okay. And right now, TRAI is still thinking about should we launch 160 or should we just put more restrictions on existing normal DID calling? Like you have a 080 number or a 022 number, which we have been using to make calls, right? All through past 10-15 years. So we continue to use those numbers, but TRAI might come up with new rules on how uh, these numbers can be tracked. Okay. So one suggestion which went out from Ozontel and also some of the aggregators in this space, okay, is that we have the DLT platform which is being used for 140, where anyway, as businesses, we are registering the 140 number we are going to use. We technically called the header, right? We are registering it against an entity with that principal entity ID, PEID, right? So one suggestion we have given is why don't you open up the DLT portal for the normal DIDs also? And this is a suggestion. It's not going to get implemented or there's no concrete answer to that. This is a suggestion which went through across different businesses, and also NASCOM represented all the aggregators in the cloud telephony space, and we have given the same suggestion through different mediums. Okay. With this, because what TRAI wants is they want a track of who is using which DID, okay, or which phone number to make the calls. So in case a scam happens or in case some kind of complaints come against a number, they can directly log in and see which business is using that phone number. That is what they want. Okay. From a security point of view, from a compliance point of view, this is what TRAI wants to do. So we suggested why go to 160? You can use normal DIDs, but make this mandatory that you upload the DID and the entity onto the DLT portal. So the end business who is making the calls is also responsible to not make any spam or scam calls through that. Okay. So this is again a approach paper where suggestions have been given. Decision is supposed to come around November 20th. I think we are on 8th today. So 8th or 7th. 7th. So uh, they said 20th. We expect it to be somewhere around December first week when the decision will come through. But again, with TRAI, there's no guarantee when it comes through. But this is the current status of things. So what do you do as of now? Okay. Um, Promotional calls, unsolicited calls, definitely a no. In case some vendor in the market is saying that you can do those calls, the if you get more than 3 complaints, your business might get affected with that. So it's a complete no as per the book. To use only 140 number. And like we suggested in the last webinar, if you get DLT opt-ins, the consents, you can actually call the DND numbers also. So there is still a way to do this. So go by the book and continue doing calls from 140 if you're doing unsolicited calls. Now, transactional calls was something which was a gray area last month because there was no concrete answer from TRAI on how do I do transactional calls. Initially, there was a knee-jerk reaction, like I said last time. They said just stop all outbound calls from normal DEDs. Now they've moderated or toned down. Now what they've said is till they come up with the decision, it is business as usual. Transactional calls can continue on normal DIDs. Okay. Now, this what does it change for you as a business? Not much. If you have transactional calls, you can continue to do. Now, the problem there is what is a transactional call? The definition has to be as per TRAI, not as per us. Okay. Like some customers still ask us to get on calls where they try to convince us that if their end customer inquired on the website and you have to make a call to that customer, and of course the customer is checking that box that I agree to get a call from this business. TRAI is saying this is a sales call and has to be 140. That part they are still not accepting. Okay. What is a transactional call? Obviously, as the name suggests, customer should have transacted with you on something. Okay. Then you can make calls through normal numbers. That part is completely, you can call it, it's not a black area or a gray area, it's a white area, which means it's approved and you can continue. And in case you get a complaint against those calls, we can always submit proofs like we did previously, like the opt-in message, your terms and conditions screenshots, the customer's data screenshot on what transaction has he done and why did we call, plus the audio recording, of course. The audio recording is like the ultimate proof that you did a transactional call. So when we say business as usual, this is what we mean. Okay. Um, Now, how does this in any way change what you were doing in the past? Not much, ideally. Only thing is you have to understand the definition of transaction call. So I'm trying to stress more on that because that is where a lot of people assume things and hence the complaints start and then they say we didn't know this. Okay. So that's the thing. I see 3 chats.
Yeah, couple of questions are there.
I'm just going through the questions. What if a candidate applies to our customer page and then we send a call to them regarding the interview? So usually it depends on the business also. So if you're talking about students and candidates, right, they might the uh, the tendency of complaints is very, very minimal. And usually this is okay for now when interviews and all are being considered transactional. But we have seen complaints even in these scenarios, by the way. Okay. If the candidate is not happy with how he was treated on the call, they have made DNC complaints also. We have listened to the recordings and saw that. Okay. But then you have a proof that he has actually asked for an interview and hence you set up the call. So that should be good enough. Okay. If this is not 160 series for transactional call of BFSA customer, who will own this CLI, PE or TM? TM to ask, PE to accept on DLT or vice versa. So right now, like I said, TRAI wants the principal entity, the end business, to own that number. Ultimately, it's going to be that when the decision comes out. More or less, day by day, the updates we are getting, they're tending towards that, where they have a complete track of who is that business, who is using this phone number to make the calls. Like you would have seen in the SMS also, right? There was a November 1st, now they made it December 1st deadline, where they've asked you to do the complete chain of uh, custody of who actually is sending the SMS, right? Because from the telco till the end business, who all are in between, TRAI wanted that for SMS. It's the same thing. They want accountability on who is the final business, who is actually you sending out the message. Okay. They want that track and chain established. It's the same with calling also. That's what will happen. Uh, I think I'm loud enough. Let me know if you still can't hear this. Bank call to end user to pay credit card bill. Yeah, collections. Uh, TRAI is saying initially said these are not transactional, but industry bodies, even us, have represented and said collection calls are transactional calls. Okay, so but like I said, it's business as usual as of now. So collection calls can be treated as transactional for now, but if complaints come, you should have proofs that you called the customer only for a particular non-payment of an EMI or a credit card bill. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, Prashant, on the Q&A,
yeah.
there is one question article about when can we start using normal DID for outbound calls. And I think this is
Okay.
for a transactional or a service. So I think
Okay.
something which you want to repeat again.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So that brings me to the third point actually. Okay. So I see some questions on why was 080 outgoing barred and all this, right? That was a knee-jerk reaction of TRAI because of all the scam which was happening. Yeah. I assume all of you know there was a TRAI scam happening, right? People were getting calls that this call is from TRAI and your number is getting removed, your SIM cards are being barred and your bank account is being freezed. So because of that scam, they became very stringent and just stopped outgoing calls on a lot of aggregators. Okay. Now, one thing which came out through this is that, and if I am a telecom operator, when I say I as Ozontel, right? If we are a telecom operator, we can take the decision of whose numbers have to be barred. Previously, we were just an aggregator, not a telecom operator as such. Okay. So what we did is, with all these changes in the regime, we felt it's better we just acquire a company which has the telecom licenses, and hence that entire thing about Cloud Connect being acquired. Okay, so I'll come back to the new approach. Okay, so with Cloud Connect acquisition, what has happened? Okay, we acquired a company which already has the virtual number operator licenses. So we technically became a operator, okay. But of course, we don't have the own the fiber. Fiber is still from a Jio, Airtel, Vodafone, or Tata, okay. But we can take the trunks from them and resell the trunks to any of our customers, okay. Why did we do that? Two reasons. One was we were on the lookout for a UCAS player since in the last 6 months, because we felt India is ready for a UCAS plus CCAS play already. Because if you have seen our LinkedIn post, we're talking about one CXI as a go-to theme, right? That's because we are looking at a business's end-to-end needs in communication. Okay. Cloud Connect had that already. That was an advantage. And the current scenario, what we felt is TRAI anyway wants the chain. That was coming out very, very clear. And we will end up having one or the other license. So we wanted to quickly get into the licensing regime so that we ourselves can control the outcomes, okay, of who gets barred or who doesn't get barred instead of a Airtel or Tata deciding on Ozontel's services as such. Okay. So with this, what we did is we acquired the Cloud Connect team and the entire business operations. Now we have a completely DOT TRAI compliant environment via Cloud Connect. And as a company, what we've done is we have logically separated out Ozontel and Cloud Connect in two offerings. If you see this box, we will remain that technology AI engineered CX platform. Okay. Cloud Connect will be the telecom, like a telecom operator, and everything related to telecom is something they will offer through directly to customers or via to Ozontel customers also. Okay. So you would have seen our team would be asking you to sign a CAF and UCC which has Cloud Connect logo on it. That's because now all the numbers we are creating that chain already, like I said. So the chain is the numbers we give to a business, we are putting those numbers against that business's name. Now, in case one business makes promotional calls and has a lot of complaints, we will be stopping the numbers of that business, but other customers will not get impacted anymore because we are controlling on who has actually not followed the rules of TRAI and hence who is getting penalized for it. Okay. Now that control is with Ozontel directly. Okay. Now, what are the additional offerings? Like I said, we have started offering a UCAS solution. I think more on this will come in a future webinars when we talk about the product. Now is not the time for that. Okay. And in this entire journey, we have established direct routes on SMS. Previously, we were going through partners. Now we established a direct route on SMS because as you can see, recent notifications on this entire chain of establishment, right? From the telecom operator to the end customer. We've removed all the chain because in this journey, we understood there are some 7 players in between. Okay. We removed everything. We went directly to the operator and have integrated operator APIs. Okay. So with this, Ozontel is the only player in between if Ozontel offers an SMS package to any of our existing customer, which I think all of you are. This webinar is specifically to our own customers now. Okay. So that is also something we started offering. But yeah, that's more on a crisp overview of Cloud Connect acquisition and what we are doing in the telecom space as such. All of this is via Cloud Connect, by the way, but services are offered via Ozontel also because it's a subsidiary entity anyway. Okay. Now uh, coming back to our original theme of this, right? There are updates from TRAI. There is a new regime coming in, but what do we do as businesses? Like we discussed last time, what do we do? What is the way forward? Okay. So some interesting experiments we were doing with few of our customers who who were thinking on the same lines as us already, and we could do closed alpha. I won't even call it a beta actually. Beta is something we would start now. But we did some alpha stage testing with a few customers on some approaches. One thing which was clearly coming out was traditionally we have been thinking if you take a simple sales call, right, which I think is the most uh, discussed thing. I won't say argued, but more discussed thing. Uh, a sales call, a customer who has who has filled a form on the website. Okay. If you want to call him, is it a sales call or a promotional call? This is the most discussed scenario, even between the telcos. Okay. Now, when we think of this, like 10 years back, what used to be the case, right? We used to publish a number and there used to be a form definitely, but more or less people used to expect that customers will just pick the phone and call that number. Slowly, everything shifted to outbound, where even if you have an engaged customer on the website, businesses have started asking them to fill a form because you wanted more information, qualify the lead on the form itself, and hence call the customer once you qualified the lead. This is how the process had changed. Okay. But instead, we can always go back to that old approach of providing that handy click and make the call to the business and actually talk to your agents who can directly engage with the customer and probably convert. Again, like I said, we don't know if this will work or not. This has to be done by vertical, by business, because it depends on the ICP of your customers. There's no straightforward answer to that. But this is one approach we are experimenting with a few customers and have seen at least some success. If not, I won't say there's a 200% jump in sales and all, but we are seeing decent success where the numbers were almost the same, whether they did outbound or they moved the approach to inbound. At least we are seeing that user adoption might increase on inbound, and hence business won't notice much of a difference. Okay. So that was one thing we were doing. Okay. Now, about consent, I think we just wanted a review of how consents are required, but I'll come back on that. So, continuing on our discussion on scenarios, right? So, these are some experiments we were doing. In fact, any of you want to do this, contact your account manager. We will engage the right team and we can actually look at doing this. If you see website leads, like I said, we are talking about more inbound approach given the change in regime, how things will change in the future. It might help to do quick betas and see if your business can do same amount of sale, especially sales. Okay. Same amount of sales with inbound strategies also. We just give one strategy, but depending on your vertical, probably chat works much better for you, depending on your ICP. So that's something you will have to explore and see. Okay. Uh, about auto dialers itself, right? How do you use auto dialers uh, currently, right? So you get a website lead and you are calling the customers. Okay. Now, if let's say TRAI says this is a promotional call, you can call only using 140. Then obviously there is no way you can call all the DND numbers. DLT opt-ins, of course, response rates and all those factors would come in, right? Then what is the way you can reach out to this customer? Uh, One is, of course, convert to an inbound strategy, but a lot of people might not call, right? They might just say, I'll just fill the form, let them get back to me. Okay. So using apps like WhatsApp to seek permission to call, which again leads to either DLT, or we launch something which we call as a app to CA, which is Cloud Agent. Okay. Where your customers can digitally call you directly without a phone number in between. So we're not even getting into the entire telecom domain at all. This will be purely an IP call that gets established. Of course, there are regulations around that as well. So we have built a completely compliant solution around that within India. And none of these calls go out of India. A lot of you developers have tried this using Twilio in the US. You will find lag on audio and all that because Twilio servers are in the US market. Hence, there is a lag in audio. But we have built this compliant environment within India itself. Okay. And with this, you would be able to explore more digital options, but with voice enabled. I'm not saying voice is out of business. Okay. It is still voice. The most favored channel is still voice, whatever said and done. So, uh, it could still be an inbound call. Sometimes you will have to use other channels like an RCS or a WhatsApp to communicate because there the DND restrictions are not applicable, at least not as of now, right? So you can use those channels, reach out to the DND customers, and of course establish a contact and then talk to them. Even WhatsApp calling is something we're looking at, but what we've seen is WhatsApp calling, like Outbound, will once the spam calls start, even people will start uninstalling WhatsApp. So we are not yet suggesting that approach to any customers. Of course, a beta can be done and seen, but we're not even taking that approach at all. Okay. Now let's take a quick pause. Uh,
Yeah, Prashant. So I think two questions we can kind of combine, which is on a transactional call itself. Uh,
okay.
the first question is, when can we start using the normal DID for outbound calls? Because I think it looks like it is impacting the CSAT. And their outbound calls is a response to a query which customer has logged with them.
Yeah.
Means
That is a hardcore transactional call. So that is immediate. Like we said, with the Cloud Connect acquisition, we have already opened up outbound calling through normal numbers. All you have to do is sign up the CAF and UCC, give the KYC documents to our sales team. Like I said, now we are a telecom operator. So this is like you are subscribing to numbers. We are providing you the numbers on your name directly. Okay. So with that, you can start using normal DIDs. I'm not just saying 080, it could be 022, 011, depending on the location. And you can start making outgoing calls through those normal numbers. Just reach out to your account manager to sign those forms and get started. Currently, if you are less than 100 channels in capacity, delivery is almost immediate. Within 24 hours, we are able to deliver. But I don't want to overcome it. I would say 72 hours is the maximum time. Once you sign the documents, you will get the numbers in your account and get activated. If it's large scale channels, I think there is a time to acquire the channels, right? So usually it's about 4 to 5 working days by when we can get those channels. But this process starts with you signing the Cloud Connect forms. So we can onboard you through Cloud Connect onto your own numbers. Okay. So that would be the process to enable 080 numbers. Okay. Next question, Amir.
Yeah, the next one is it's for a logistics where I think they need to connect, or so the logistic drivers have to register on their applications and they need to call and verify and confirm. So they want to understand whether this could be transactional or will it still be promotional? Because it's
So
like,
the drivers are the business's own people, right? They are partners to the business, so it should be okay. Uh, but again, an unsatisfied driver might end up doing a DNC complaint. So we should have those proofs of audio recording, everything in the call, where we know that it is a transactional call. Okay, then it's fine.
okay. I think the next one is if if they choose the our SMS service, right, which is the current, which is kind of come with the Cloud Connect acquisition, do
Mhm.
they need a DLT approval?
Yeah,
Is the
yeah. DLT approval is anyway mandatory. Whether you use Ozontel or anybody else, you have to still go through DLT only for SMSs. There is no other option now. Okay. Only thing is we have cut down the flag, and one thing which is a very non-transparent situation, right? Is SMSs sent versus how many got delivered to the end user is a maze actually. Even I don't have a view of what it is when we're doing via the partner. So hence what we are doing is we are cutting down everything and just opening up the operator numbers to you. So whatever the operator says is what we are giving you. Okay. At least we are providing that transparency and cutting out any reports which are custom built. Like Ozontel doesn't have a SMSC gateway where we can show you submitted numbers also as delivered. That's not how it is. Whatever the operator says is what we will show you in the reports. Okay. That is the promise of what we are doing in the SMS space. But DLT is mandatory. That will remain.
Okay. I
Next
think
question.
next one is because there are two questions on related to that, which is let's say if they have a toll-free number or a helpline and they have received a missed call, they want to call back to them, let's say through auto dialer or something. Will
Mhm.
that be a transactional or will that be as per the TRAI something which
Yeah, so this TRAI has not agreed to. One reason is a lot of businesses have made calls to missed calls from last year. Okay. And TRAI said there is no way we can stop this. Hence, this use case is invalidated. If you get a missed call, send a WhatsApp, send a message to the customer to call in sometime. Okay. That's one way, or the customer calls back, or they simply said have enough agents to pick the calls. Obviously, we know you can't put people for the peak load. We know that. Okay. But of course, right now, that's how it is. Okay. But if let's say, again, this is use case to use case, right? If it's a your business partner who is calling you, like somebody said drivers, right? They are your partners. They are calling you and it's a missed call. You want to call them back. I don't think they are going to complain about your own business, right? So that's a, I would say, more logical or rational decision you will have to take. Uh, because anyway, the numbers are on your own, on your entity now. Okay. So once the numbers are on your entity, you are deciding whether you want to make these calls or this transactional or not. If you are in doubt, of course, you can always consult us and we will tell you what it is. Okay. Yeah, Amir, next question.
yeah. Next is I think because I think you talk about the VoIP call, the VoIP call or the IP calling. I think someone is interested in more about this, but I think we'll be doing a big
Not
long.
this forum. I think, yeah, just reach out to your account manager. We can talk a lot more there when our sales and solutioning group will talk to you. Okay. Somebody raised a hand there. Okay, so part of welcome call, reaching existing customers is part of welcome call collections. Right now, TRAI is okay to say that these are transactional calls till they come out with the final decision. So you can start using normal numbers for this. Of course, uh, sign up with our cloud on the Cloud Connect forms, and we will enable you with normal numbers for these kind of calls. Please answer my question.
There is one which is kind
Can
of
you look
a
for Mr. Garg's question for international calls? If we use client's cloud telecalling services, then what should be kept in mind as a service provider in India? If you're using client's cloud telecalling services, Mr. Garg, international calling itself is very tricky, right? Because they have their own DNC policies there in those countries. So if the number is in DNC and you made a call to that customer, they can sue you actually. In India, at least the end customer cannot sue you. But in US, UK, and even European countries, right? People can sue you if you make a call. And if they can identify your business as the end business, they will legally file a complaint against you. So DNC scrubbing, I would still say, is really needed unless you know there is a business transaction and hence you are making the call. Okay. If it's a sales call, definitely it's a complete no, even in the international calls. Yeah, Amit.
probably we can just take two questions before we move on. One is, I think, something which we came in the last one also, which is when prospects are filling an inquiry in their, let's say, website, there is an
Mm.
opt-in. Now, and what they're asking is, can we take DLT consent during inquiry, or do we have to do separate? I think which is something which was a very popular question when they
Yeah,
came in.
yeah. So that's the reason we kept the DLT flow still in this webinar also. Okay. So the API part is still not clear even to us. Operators have not yet provided the APIs to us. In case any of you are using operator APIs for DLT opt-in, just let us know in the chat. So we know which operator has provided you the API at least. So we go and fetch the APIs from there. Okay. What operators have done though is they've given a QR code. They have given a DLT portal link through which you can get the consents. Okay. So these are the modes through which you can get the consent. Okay. So of course, when somebody is signing up on your website, you can always say, would you like to give an opt-in that checkbox? Once they click the checkbox, right? Open up the QR code. So or the DLT portal link directly. QR code is nothing but the link, right? You can just open up the link and ask them to give an opt-in through that link. Okay. So ultimately, see if you see this flow, even if they open up the link, the end result is an SMS goes to the customer and they have to give that consent on the SMS itself. Okay. Ultimately, that's what is going to happen. But QR code is more like a trigger to that flow. Okay.
The last one, which before we move on, is it is again repeat, but just because it's a different use case compared to the driver for one of the logistics company, which
Mhm.
is where I think they work with us to communicate or make calls to the seller support, which is a non-revenue generating function. And they wanted to understand because why 080 was kind of stopped, and which you kind of explained. So if you can, if you want to probably repeat that, so that I think even if they may have joined slightly late, they would be clear about it. Because that's, I
Yeah.
think, a critical updates which you kind of give to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So 080 being stopped was like I said a knee-jerk reaction, right? It's not about your business or my business. That was a generic decision taken. Okay. Now they've moderated, toned down, and now they've said, okay, continue your business as usual. You can continue this till we come up with a framework. Okay. When I say we TRAI comes up with the framework. Okay. And what we did is to ensure that one business, if in case they make telemarketing calls through normal numbers, other businesses do not suffer. The only way is to keep the numbers on each business's name. That way, there is no blanket stop of calls. It will just be the business who has actually not followed the rules will get impacted. Rest of the businesses will continue as normal. And hence that entire thing of Cloud Connect, SCAF, and UCC undertaking, which are your account managers or our sales teams must be asking you to sign. Because through that, when we put the numbers on your entity's name, as long as your entity is following the rules, there's nothing anybody can do to that. Okay.
Yeah, we can move on, and I think we'll take some more questions later.
So some I also wanted to cover some product updates because what I felt was we spoke with few customers in the last 2 months, and we realized while we had lot of things implemented from a compliance point of view, especially for outbound, right? Like businesses truly do not want to ping the customers very frequently. Okay. But probably because of lack of updates from Ozontel side also, or sometimes it's also that you would have missed the updates because your email is not in that chain. Okay. So we thought of giving these updates. See, for outbound calls, even if it is transactional, obviously you don't want to call customers at the wrong time or not too many times in a day, for example, right? So you can use these features in Ozontel in the product already. Okay. So we have in fact given workdays, which means you can say when your campaign should run at what time in the day. And also for each day, you can give separate timings. Okay. This is all available in our new interface, the CX Hub interface. Okay. Holiday settings can be done, which means on public holidays or any holidays you set up, calls will not be dialed to customers on that day. Okay. You can also restrict number of calls to a customer per day. Okay. So you can do either it at a account level, which means as a business, uh, you're taking that call that no customer gets more than 3 calls from our business in a day. Okay. It might be that the same customer is in 20 different campaigns. So 20 calls will go out if you put a per campaign limit. So that's a decision a business owner can take. You have a account level restriction, which means your business will not call a customer more than X number of times a day. That is the rule. Or you can say for every campaign, you can put a limit of number of calls you dial through that campaign. Because sometimes you have transactional calls, like somebody who is calling customers for KYC might have to call the same customer 10 times in the day because the home loan is almost complete and you just have to call him so many times. So restrictions on that team or that campaign might not work. So depending on the business, you can put those restrictions here. So these are three important restrictions we have implemented from a compliance point of view in the product in the last 3 months actually. These are not something we did like in the last week. These have been available. Only thing is we were not sure whether every one of our customers know about this. While we have sent out the emails, we've informed account managers, we've done some trainings to the account managers. All that has happened. But because this is a open forum, a lot of you are joining in. We thought it's good to give these updates here. And that brings us to the conclusion. So, Amir, any questions? Let's answer those.
Yes. One immediate while you are presenting this is, do all these updates applicable to the outbound calls made
Yeah.
by APIs?
Yeah, outbound calls, even manual calls. So this is applicable to any outbound call your business is making through Ozontel's CX Hub platform.
Okay. One just question which came is, how does the new approach or uh, updated framework from TRAI help to combat or deal with fraud calls? Is there any helpline or platform where spurious calls can be reported? Any mechanism available with us?
No, currently there is no way you can report it except the DND app and the cybercrime numbers which the police have published, which that is for more the scam calls, not the spam. For spam, there's nothing but the DND app from TRAI, so you will have to complain on the DND app. That's the only way it can be done. Okay. Um, in terms of how will the new regime impact you as a business, right? We think the industry also has given a lot of feedback to try. So there is a more practical approach which will come out, unlike the knee-jerk reaction which happened initially. So and the reason they are doing all this is ultimately they want a track of who made the call or who sent the SMS, whether it's an SMS or a call. So if they want a track, currently they cannot do that. Okay. And that's the visibility they want across the system. And I think they will come up with steps on how that visibility will happen.
Okay. The next one is regarding displaying what do you call names. So when, let's say, they're making calls with on 140 series, instead of 140 prefix, is there a way they can display the business name without probably using the true caller plan? Is something, there's a question.
No, currently carriers are not providing that option at all. I think they have started looking at that option where they, even for a normal DID, carriers will open up what is called as the caller name. US, it's called as CNAM. So CNAM is the short form for caller name, where you can actually put your business name there, and that shows up as the caller ID to the end user who is getting that call. But currently, it's not there. Currently, Truecaller is the only option, unfortunately.
Okay. The regarding that, right, about the updates, that do these updates applicable to the outbound calls made by APIs? There is a follow-up that they do not have agents or call center. They use Cuckoo API to initiate the calls. Is it applicable for them also? Is what there's a follow-up question.
Yeah, if you're making a unsolicited call, which is a commercial or sales call, whether you use CPaaS APIs or an agent to make the call, it's the same. The logic is the same. Okay. But if it's a transactional call, of course, no point, no problem. You can continue to use.
Okay. The next one is again, I think like a education business perspective. If a student provides a consent to be contacted, but as a minor, would this consent be considered legally valid?
Minor giving a consent is not considered a consent legally also. As you know, the guardian has to give the consent, and there is no way you can get that on the website. So for this use case, especially, this was discussed with one of our customers actually. And if you talk, we're talking legal ways, okay? So legally, the only way is go through DLT and get the consent from the parent. Okay. If you call the parent and he complains you again that it's a D&D call, then yeah, that becomes your first complaint for the business. Okay. So any other questions, Amir?
Uh, yeah, I think there's one that can we call uh, from both the series. That means I think 140 and probably looks like normal. I don't know, after getting the consent. I don't know when I say both the series.
No, because once you have a consent, you can call from 140 to those numbers definitely. That is the entire point of getting the consent. Calling from a normal number is okay, but currently there is no integration of which numbers have given the consent is a download, like we explained last time in the webinar. So if you manually download those numbers and your business is trying to make the calls, that is fine because they have given the consent to make the calls. At least for now, TRAI is saying if there is a DLT opt-in, then the complaint is invalidated directly. So that's perfectly okay.
There is one, but I think this is something related to Truecaller as well, uh, where it says I think probably a user or a customer who has a Truecaller app, but they have taken a Truecaller kind of a service, but it's kind of showing still as a suspected spam.
So
Is it?
suspected spam is because lot of users would have marked it like that in Truecaller. Okay. So even if you've taken a paid plan from Truecaller, that suspected spam thing will not go. Okay. If lot of users have still marked that number as suspected spam, that will still come up on Truecaller. That doesn't change. I think a better uh, thing can be to set up a meeting with Truecaller team and they can explain that. But at least high level answer, you if users mark it as a suspect spam, Truecaller will show it as suspected spam while showing your business name.
Okay. One more is let's say someone has taken a trial service of a product which is free.
Mhm.
Customer has registered for that through website. They want to know whether they can call them via normal DID. Will this be a transactional once they have completed a trial?
No, even it's a sales call ultimately. Okay, so you have to go through that process of DLT consent and get it. Okay.
I think we have kind of answered almost all.
Let me stop the screen share. Let's just check the chat. There are
Yeah.
how to restore transactional calls through your SIP PRA which you had blocked. So for for any of you who still have normal calling block, talk to account manager. Through the Cloud Connect acquisition, we have opened up all the calls already. You will have to sign the UCC and CAF for Cloud Connect, and normal numbers are being enabled to customers who want that. If we reached out to customer using 140 and on a recorded line we took consent, he can be contacted by other like DAD. No, it is not considered valid proof even then, even on a recorded line. TRAI is saying, see, for TRAI officials, what is, they said we have created the DLT portal. Opt-in should be seen there in the DLT portal. Whatever other means you use are unofficial. So they're not ready to look at any other channels where you got the opt-in. Of course, if recorded call was okay, then of course the checkbox on the website is also okay, right? DNC complaint comes to a DID, we can retire the number and take another one. However, our services are still on with Ozontel. So yeah, while this is true, the thing is now this complaint is officially lodged on DOT. There is a DOT portal where this complaint has come against your business. So even while you have changed the DID number, the complaints are still on your entity. Okay. So of course, you will have to submit the proof. So that is why ensuring that you're doing actual transactional calls only through normal DIDs is very, very important. Because see, again, this might not happen immediately the day you got three complaints. TRAI officials might audit anytime. They have direct access to all these numbers allocated, that entire, there is a portal for it. TRAI officials or DOT officials can log in and see which business has what complaints and how many DIDs are they using. That, and of course that is the transparency they are trying to get, even through any of the software players. Okay. So now that we are a VNO, of course, we upload all this on a portal where TRAI can always see that. So retiring a DID is not a solution. A lot of vendors say this to just make the sale. But while we want to make that sale, your business will be at risk if you make those calls. Okay. So of course, retiring the DID will not work. Okay, because all the complaints are against your entity. It's not on the DID. Okay.
There is one where it says, since we have been assigned a personal DID and are using Truecaller to display our brand name for easy
Mhm.
identification, is there a risk of our number being shifted to 140 if customers file complaints?
No, if customers file complaints, see, like I said, right? If you're doing proper transactional calls, uh, your recordings will show that it is a transactional call where you were actually making the call for what? Okay. Then, of course, there is no way that complaint is getting valid, right? So we will invalidate the complaint. Now that valid or invalid complaint is also with Ozontel's team. When I say Ozontel, of course, we kept the team separate, but it is Ozontel ultimately. Cloud Connect is nothing but Ozontel. So it is with us. So if your business is doing proper transactional calls, we will be invalidating the complaint. Okay.
And there's another one where if it's a transactional calling mechanism, do they still need to do the DLT process?
Transactional calls and you are using normal DID, you don't need DLT consent. DLT consent ideally is for scrubbing against 140. So if you get the consent from 140 also, you can call those numbers. That is why DLT consent was being asked. Only thing is if you have a DLT consent and or you're calling the customer, right, then that is 100% safe. Otherwise, we end up providing the audio recording proof, the opt-in proof, the screenshot of in the CRM, all those as evidences right now to invalidate the DNC complaints. We've seen cases where the customer was unhappy with how the agent responded to him and hence filed a DNC complaint. But it was actually a call made against a support ticket. Okay. Just because the customer was unhappy, they filed a DNC complaint. But obviously, when we submitted the recording, it got invalidated because clearly it was showing that the business made a call only against a support ticket. There is a ticket number, a email generated sent to the customer. So all the screenshots were provided as proof and it got invalidated.
Yeah, I think there's a follow-up about the Truecaller spam one.
Okay.
I think that spam is coming from the operator. And is there any solution for that?
So, how does this spam work? Suspected spam from Airtel coming, right? All they've done is implemented the Truecaller in the backend, actually. They are using Truecaller API to see it and do. While they have promoted it as our AI is doing it, backend it's only Truecaller. And usually how it works in the US, okay? I can tell you how it works in the carrier side. I think all our carriers will also start implementing this. From the same DID, in a minute, if you make more than 10 or 20 calls, the operator, it's a clear indication that you're using a auto dialer first of all. Okay. And if you're using a auto dialer, they mark it as a spam call. Okay. This is typically how it works in the US market. Okay. So because of there are other regulations there like stir shaken and others in the US market. So similarly here operators might have implemented, but initially Airtel started with Truecaller. Maybe they have shifted to their own logic. No, we don't know. But usually number of calls you make from the DID will enable this. Okay. Because even Truecaller's logic is the same. How many calls, how many hits are coming from the same DID onto the Truecaller app is what they will look at to mark it as suspected spam. And of course, they have crowdsourcing, so users are also marking it as a spam. So that's also there.
I think something like a continuity, someone who is doing a SIP calling, uh, right, or for their outbound campaigns. I think it shows like a fraud call on the customer phone. Is there a way this can be solved?
Uh, Ours is SIP calling. I don't know what does it mean. Is it a IP call? IP call definitely will show as a spam call. More importantly, you will have to change the numbers and see how it goes. Because people are marking these as fraud calls, as simple as that. It means why are they marking it as fraud calls? That depends on what is your brand, how is it being called? Okay, like for example, any call where you would you would ask for, let's say, a customer's password or an OTP. Okay. Is considered a fraud call. Users will not listen to anything else. They will mark it as a fraud and scam call. Okay. But if your brand names are very similar to any of these keywords, right? Like uh, nowadays FedEx has started. So even if it's a real FedEx call you make now, users are marking it as a fraud call. Okay. So obviously that impacts the brand and of course the number of complaints which will come also. So you have to check what your brand name is. Maybe change the script. Okay. To change the name what your agents are saying so that it doesn't get marked as fraud calls. Okay.
The next one, I think, slightly interesting one, which is if the customer marks their number as spam, it could lead to a number being closed and shifted to 140 prefix. Although they have a personal DID, do we provide 140, all right, in such scenario as a backup option?
Yeah. So we do provide 140 numbers. In fact, I think we are only one of the few players who have 140 numbers right now, at least in abundance, where we can allocate numbers. There is a process to get a 140 number. Contact the account manager and we can provide that. Okay. If customer marks a number as spam, your number is not going to get closed. Okay. But if a customer is complaining against your business on that number and as a DND complaint, and we cannot provide the proofs, okay, then that number will have to be closed. And of course, usually we are blocking the entire calling of that customer from normal DIDs, and we are requesting that customer to shift to 140 number calling. Okay.
There is one where it says, I don't know whether you have answered this, that if we reach out to a customer using 140 series, and during the conversation, which is recorded, they take a consent that he or she can be contacted via
Yeah,
the.
I replied to that, right? Yeah, recorded consent also would not work. TRAI wants to see that consent on the DLT, so they can audit it.
Okay.
Normal numbers, Namit, somebody called Namit asked, normal numbers which is start by signing cash is temporary or permanent? This is permanent. Like I said, this is a permanent process now, and it we will be providing those numbers on a permanent basis. These are not temporary anymore. Other vendors in the market able to offer number series like 080 731 086. Are there specific arrangements or approvals with that allow for these type of numbers? No, there's nothing like that. You just have you should have trunks in that location. So Ozontel is offering a 080 079 series, which is Ahmedabad. Okay. We do offer 022, 011 also. These are like the most popular four destinations. 731 mostly is Indore. Indore we do have, we can provide. We haven't yet set up new trunks on that via Cloud Connect, but we can provide that.
Next one is, can we get mobile numbers now as caller DID?
Yeah, we did switch a large mobile trunk onto Cloud Connect. It is getting activated next week. Once that is there, you can get mobile numbers. But again, this is via CAF. You have to sign the Cloud Connect forms and get that. That is done. Somebody asked, we are currently using SIP calling for inbound calls. It will not be affected as of now. No, inbound calls will never get affected. That will continue to run as normal. Okay. So calling customers from 140 series will take a hit on connect percentage. Any suggestions on this? Because most of customers might move the number under spam. Can we batch these numbers in Truecaller or anything? Yes, Truecaller badging can be done. But still 140, obviously you cannot call the DND numbers till they give a consent. So your connectivity might reduce if you have large lot of customers in metros. Okay. Now, that is where we suggested a few things like convert your outbound into an inbound strategy, unless you can't, right? Like if you're buying leads in the market from partners, of course, you cannot convert it into an inbound strategy. Then, of course, there's nothing else you can do there. Okay. Uh, with horizontal PRI lines, how many complaints will block the line for a customer? Three complaints. The third complaint is when it's not just blocking line. Basically, your line is blocked on the second complaint itself. A third complaint would mean the blacklisting of the entity as per the book. But of course, like I said, this is if all complaints are valid and we cannot provide the proofs. If you can provide the proofs, then okay, then that's fine. The complaint itself is invalidated, so your count comes to zero again. Okay.
Yeah, I think we are more or less covered.
Yeah. So, and any of you who are thinking of using GSM gateways, which is a non-legal way again, officially it's a non-legal way. TRAI has started auditing GSM gateway vendors also. So, if you have purchased GSM gateways, TRAI is going via the tax route of GST to see which of these vendors have sold to which businesses. Okay. So even those audits have started now. So sooner or later, even GSM gateways is a business risk, which you will be taking in case any of you are using that. So I just want to put it out so you know that things are becoming more stringent. Okay. And alternate ways, we just suggested a few common ways here. Depending on your business, nature of business, and type of calls, we can suggest very, very unique and different ways of calling. Do connect back to our account managers so they can actually set up a discussion group and actually help you with that.
Yeah.
No, there is no TRAI action against GSM gateway. This is something we get to know because our people are sitting in the TRAI office every day now. So this is all information which is flowing through, which I am sharing here. Okay, there's no official document for that. Officially, TRAI will announce a news only once they have actually caught the GSM gateways and actually blocked lot of SIM cards. Then they will say, already I think you would have seen one news in Economic Times, right? About 1.15 million SIM cards have been blocked, or 1.5 million SIM cards have been blocked. That news came out last month. So similar news will come once the action has been taken. Before taking an action, they will of course not give the news. Okay. Webhook for DLT consent, frankly, no idea. We in fact are following up continuously because we ourselves are a technology company. We want automations. So, but we don't have an answer for that yet.
Okay, I think, yeah, we are ahead of time by 3 minutes, right? So thank you, Prashant, right, for your time and I think taking us and our customers about the next steps and the best strategies. Thank you to everyone for joining us today and probably listening to us. We will again continue to do such sessions, be it a product updates, be it new strategies as part of our new launches, right? So stay tuned, right, for our next updates and next webinars. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.